Please welcome Daniel Zarrilli.
Good morning. It's a thrill to be here. Thank you so much to MAS for having me. Thank you very much to Mary Rowe for all of her leadership in the resilient space. Before Sandy, after Sandy, it's been a real joy to work with her. My name is Dan Zarrilli. I'm the director of the Mayor's Office of Recovery and Resiliency. We've got 5 quick minutes to talk through what we're doing since Sandy, our OneNYC resiliency program, and what may be coming next. Of course, I went light on slides too. Oh, there's one. There we go. Light on slides today, but really, a couple things I just wanted to convey. No one really needs to be reminded of what happened during Hurricane Sandy, a turning point in the city in thinking about climate change. But a few key stats, of course, to remind people: 44 lives lost during Hurricane Sandy, $19 billion in damages and lost economic activity, and the realization that with climate change, those risks grow. And that event, that $19 billion event, could be a $90 billion event in the 2050s, given our projections on climate change that you heard from Cynthia earlier this morning. These are punches we can't afford to keep taking as a city, and we need to be making sure we're taking action. But taking a step back to where we were after Hurricane Sandy, it's clear that there was no roadmap. It was not. There was no clear next step of what we needed to do. There was a long debate going on in the city. That debate still continues here today. There was some calling for the big walls that we need to wall ourselves off from the ocean. Others are calling for running away from the coast. I think those two extremes are not the right approach, and we need to be thinking creatively about how we are engaging with the waterfront in a new way. And so the other, I think, important and key piece to talk about is that, of course, we're coming up on the 3rd anniversary of Hurricane Sandy. We were reminded earlier this month of the risks that we faced when Hurricane Joaquin came barreling up the coast, thankfully taking an eastward trajectory off the coast of New York City, but could have brought its impacts here to New York City, and just continue to remind us of the vulnerability and the urgency of what we're doing to build resiliency against climate change and other 21st century threats. And the key question that kept coming up as we were both approaching the anniversary of Sandy, as well as reminded from what Joaquin could have brought to us, is this key question is: where are we today? And are we ready today? Are we safer today than we were? Are we more resilient than we were when Sandy hit? And I think the answer is yes. We've done a lot, and we're not satisfied. There's a lot more to do in order to make sure that we're building the right measures in place, both to strengthen our communities as well as upgrade our coastal areas. But I think that the key lesson that came out of Sandy that is important to remember is that while it was a turning point, and there had been a lot of great work happening before Sandy on climate change planning, the city had been a leader in that, continues to be a leader, that the turning point was that now all of a sudden there was funding to be able to implement many of the things we had been talking about. And so we've been actively and aggressively pursuing a $20 billion comprehensive climate resiliency program since Sandy, and taking a lot of action to upgrade our coast and make sure we're upgrading our building codes, preparing for the types of threats that we face. But that key lesson that we really learned is that we are, as we're talking about climate and the things we've done to think about the risks that we face, this is not something that's happening or going to happen to us 100 years from now. This is something that's happening now. We're vulnerable now, and we need to make sure we're taking immediate action, not paralyzing ourselves that we need to know what the end state of climate looks like in the year 2500 or some far off date, but not paralyzing ourselves with the knowledge that we have to have every answer, but taking immediate steps now, not precluding future, perhaps bigger options that we need to take, but making sure that we're taking action and not avoiding the hard decisions that we need to in order to make sure that our coastal communities, our entire city, is ready for the impacts that we face. So that's why in April of this year, the city expanded upon its climate resiliency work and released OneNYC, the Plan for a Strong and Just City, which is our strategic long-term plan for dealing with issues of growth. Of course, we're a growing city. There's going to be 9 million people here. We have aging infrastructure. Our inequality is growing. And of course, climate change exacerbates many of these challenges. We've instead adopted a multi-layered approach to resiliency, thinking about our neighborhoods and making sure the places we live, work, and play are more prepared. We're strengthening community organizations, that our buildings are upgraded. We're upgrading the building codes. We're continuing to invest in our existing building stock, that our infrastructure, working regionally here, that we're in better shape, that we can make sure we're coordinating with our regional partners, both public and private, to adopt long-term resiliency measures, and then our coastal defenses, which were, Sandy highlighted in a big way the vulnerabilities we had on our coast, like along our 520 miles of shoreline. We were starting from a point of near zero, working all across the city. We've been taking steps to change that, and it's changing rapidly. So each of these, of course, interacts and is linked with the city's entire plan, our efforts to reduce inequality, and that recognition that climate is going to only exacerbate these challenges across the city. Just maybe to conclude in the last 30 seconds that I have here, taking it back to some of the things Cynthia just told you about in the big picture. We're all on the road to Paris. There's major effort to come to national and international agreement on what we're going to do about climate change. There's a major effort underway among cities all over the world. New York City is part of that and leading that effort to take drastic and bold action, whether it's our 80 by 50 commitment, reducing our greenhouse gases 80% by 2050, or continuing to implement an aggressive climate adaptation and resiliency program all across the city. These are the things that we need to do to make sure that we're building a stronger, more resilient New York. And I want to thank everyone at MIS for their support and their help in doing that. So thank you very much.